Hey everybody, welcome back to the SYFY WIRE New York Comic Con live stage. It's still 2018, I think, probably. My name is Danny Roth. I do a lot of podcasts for SYFY WIRE. I'm Mr. Podcast, sometimes to talk about why Star Trek characters are bad at romance. As you do, I'm a very normal person. I smell fine. I'm here with Kieron Gillen and Jamie McKelvie to talk about The Wicked and the Divine. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Damn, this is it.
Yeah, we approach the end now, don't we, Jamie?
Yeah, 6 issues left.
Yeah, it's actually 7 to come
Wow, if you include the special.
We've got a comedy special next month. Like the penultimate, actually not the penultimate, the penny ultimate trade came out like this week. And it all wraps up early next year. It's all a bit worrying.
Other than worried. Is this, just to be clear, is this the longest form story that the two of you have worked on together? Is it the longest?
By far.
It feels like it's the longest thing anyone has ever done.
Yes.
It's been endless. It's just carried on. The thing is, it really is genuinely exciting because we've known the end at the start. So finally, if I died, I don't need to worry about people not knowing the end. You know, and
honestly, so all right, so you drop dead. If you dropped dead at the beginning, could he have carried on without you? Was it that to the letter?
It would have been as good.
Yeah, it would
vaguely.
but like ultimately, like if he had kept to like what the original concept was,
I mean,
has it changed so little? Were you really that clear in your mind?
No, there was a lot of space for different directions. You might want to go with different bits of it, but the core of it was always there. The ending hasn't changed.
It's like you know how the final beat, but you don't know the song structure. So like a lot about the early planning and a thing like Wick Div is you know how many ways you could do, and you're trying to create an interesting matrix of possibilities. Because if you know it all entirely, it's just going to be typing for 5 years. So what you want to do is this is going to keep me interested as a problem to solve. But like the end of every arc has the really big beat, and we knew all of them. So we know the landmarks. So it's a case of, okay, we've reached here, we know what's over there, we start marching, and that's kind of how you do it.
So like from the last arc, all right, let's say this just to is everybody caught up for the most part with the last arc, not the trade, but you're reading issue to issue? All right.
Okay, there's definitely someone in the front row who's nervous now.
I just don't want to spoil too much.
Yeah. It's like we can talk elusively.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like from that, what did you know? What surprised you as you were figuring it out?
I mean, the thing about this last arc is it's a lot been about one of the characters, what they've been up to secretly across 6,000 years. That's kind of like
I do love that bit of here's a date, a lot of murder, missed you, more murder. Yeah.
That was a lot of work.
Yeah. So it was
always worth it.
After the big reveal at the end of the 6th trade, it was always okay. Clearly, what happens next is how we got here. What at least part of the actual real story, as in what's being kept from the reader.
So, it was a lot of work.
Yeah,
That's all I'm focusing on right now.
There's a particular issue, as you say, we go through 6,000 years of history, one panel at a time, and that is stupid. We should have never done that.
I mean, it turned out great, but that was a very bad idea.
Yeah. It was a lot of work. It's like it was at least twice, maybe 3 times as much as a normal issue. Because you've got to Jamie's got to design 180 characters, and he's got to research every single period, and I've got to research the entire of human history and decide what was interesting in that 90-year period.
Easy.
Yeah, whatever. So,
well, I mean, honestly, so this has been on my mind a lot, because if you think about where the comic book community was when Wicked and Divine started and where we are right now, we're sort of experiencing a big, complicated moment where here's this angry alt-right group of people, and then here's this huge progressive element that's coming through, which is great. And you've written a trans character in here. There's a lot of queer people in the story, and to me, just as difficult as being faithful and understanding history correctly is if you're, say, I don't know, a cis straight white man, is making sure that you're telling these stories authentically. I think that is just as important and just as challenging. So when you're doing that, when you're approaching that over the course of your career, and especially with this book because it's been so successful, how do you do that well? Easy question, again.
How do we? That's an assumption we do it well. We certainly always try as hard as we can about it. I said this arc was a lot of work, and the actual research stuff is the hard physical work. But in terms of the thing that has made this arc emotionally draining, is there's some stuff in it which is just really hard. It is stuff which is extremely hot button topics and very controversial, and we knew that if we executed it badly, it would be mortifying. So that's, you know what I mean? That's the stuff that we care about, and it's stuff you try to do well. And a lot of it is just, I say just. It's like, if you're worried about it, that's normally a good sign, because it implies you're going to do the due diligence and speak to people and entirely try to know what you can do a story about and not. I mean, one of the things is like, talk about Cassandra, who is like one of the trans character, one of the trans characters. And so much is about her perspective filters everything she does, but I'm also trying to not do a trans story with her. She's a trans character whose perspective alters her journey, but it's not a story about being trans, because I don't think that latter is a story I really should tell, you know, because it's not really my story to tell. Whilst the other stuff is absolutely things I think you have to write about if you're trying to write about the world we live in. I mean, me and Jamie, I know I'm talking a lot, but me and Jamie have we don't really consider the book diverse, considering the city we live in. You know, this is just the world we live in, and the problem being that reality is diverse, you know.
Well, yeah, of course. But like, do you sit down and have a conversation with somebody? Because that's the thing. It's like there is. I mean, like I would say, like fundamentally, there is a difference. Like, okay, I'm walking down the street. I'm a cis woman. I am not invisible, and I have to deal with bullshit. I'm a trans woman. The bullshit is similar, but a little to the left. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not perfectly identical experiences one-to-one every single time. So do you go to somebody and say like, hey, can you read this and make sure that I'm not like borking it? Like,
yeah, basically, especially when I know it's a loaded area. Yes, hell yes. It's like, the other thing is, I've got, a lot of it just come to knowing people. Like,
Sure.
You're writing people, you know, Wickdiv is drawing from my entire life experience. So there's a degree of like, yes, I do, especially consult when something's incredibly loaded. But I also like have talked to people about stuff over the years. So I am, never assume you know everything. And I stress, I don't want to say that, but a lot of the stuff just comes from life experience.
but I do.
That's it. The arrogance is nonsense. You've got to approach this stuff humbly. But you do as much as you can is the best way of putting it.
How can we talk about the adaptation of the work from the comics medium to the TV medium? Because it's very hard, right? Because I mean, like when you write a comic, it's like, I mean, I like to think that we all love the comic book medium, but there is constantly the pressure of like, can this thing be transferred to something else? And when you were making it, like, did you think like, oh, I mean, like if somebody approached me, that'd be all right?
I mean, no, we treat it as a comic first and foremost because it is a comic.
Yeah.
You know, there's bits in it that you couldn't do in any other medium specifically for the comic. In terms of actually an adaptation, everything's a bit in flux right now. So again, it's one of those things we can't really discuss.
Everything moves at Hollywood speed, you know what I mean? That's the
Yeah.
kind of like, so interesting conversations are happening. But, you know, I mean, just to talk about a friend's work, you know, walking this hall and seeing Deadly Class up on the wall, in that kind of like, I am so excited for Rick and Wes. That's like absolutely our peers, and it looks amazing. So, yeah, it's always a really exciting time for like comics in that way, because the adaptations now can exist to be really good.
Can you talk about what it's like to be a god and then say, nah? Because that's kind of big, and it also really, I mean, like, there have been big moments, but that can sort of like really turn a story on its ear.
That's the sort of thing that's like, the question of what is truth is deep in the heart of Wickdiv. And to be honest, like, if you want to unpick one of the major themes, it's like how stories can control people. That's kind of one of the things that's ran all the way through Wickdiv. And to be honest, if we look across the last 5 years of history, we appear to be a world that's gone mad by story. The idea of how narrative is weaponized and all that, that's kind of what at least half of what Wickdiv's about. And like some of the stuff you're alluding to, it definitely kind of feeds into that.
So, I mean, going into this last arc, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, I agree with you absolutely. We live in a strange, bad time. Sorry, corporate. But like, you don't really need to do you talk about it directly, or is you just trust that like there are enough analogs in the story and say like, well, I don't need to like insert a thing in there?
Yeah, we trust the readers a lot to get what we're talking about, I think.
Drama, if drama is too didactic, it fails entirely at drama. So we're writing about people in situations, and these are things that people fall into. Like all the characters, all the gods, they kind of have their own hamartia, as I like to say. They're kind of fatal failing. And at least a lot of that is how they relate to stories and their identity and who they think they are and who they were trying to be. And like the gap between how some characters act and some other characters act is kind of the point, because the reason why you have all these like 13, 14 core characters is you can make everyone individual and all of them fail in their own way. And by showing all the different ways you can fail, it's kind of like, oh no, maybe I won't do that. but at the same time, how they achieve and how they, overcome themselves, it allows us to share in our triumph. So does that make sense? The reason why the cast is as big as it is I do not think it is simple.
Yeah.
If it was an easy answer, I would do a tweet,
That's fair. Are you sad? How do you feel? I mean, like, the story is ending, and you guys have worked on so many books together. Like, do you have, like, are you taking a break? Do you hate each other now? You're never working together again.
I mean, we've always hated each other. I don't know. I'm going to be taking a break. I'm not sure you are.
I'm not. My new book, Die, launches in December with Stephanie Hans, which is going to be amazing. But really, it does feel like an end of an era, but me and Jamie will always be together, like that end of Greece flying off in a car.
Hi, I'm Jackie Jennings with SYFY WIRE. If you can't get enough of New York Comic Con, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel for news, interviews, cosplay, and so much more. What are you waiting for?